His name is Dennis Ball. His show must go on. The yellow felt just floats and serves up mad dad jokes. He does the interviews that make your POV skew towards hilarity. Oh baby, can't you see? The score is more than love to me. He's the Wimbledon of comedy.
I love Dennis Ball.
What's up, ballers? Welcome to Dennis Ball Show. Welcome to Dennis Ball Live. Good evening, ballers. And what's up to all the ballers who are watching the replay? After this broadcast, I'm going to put timestamps underneath. So, like, if you want to skip ahead to the Beatles chat or the dad jokes, you can. What's up? Do we have anybody in the stream? Do we have anybody in the chat? Let me see if we can say hello. If I have Georgia Constitution Media is in the house. Hold on, I'm gonna make sure the chat box is in action. Georgia Constitution Media is in the house. We got Mark Rojas. What's up, Mark? Sweet. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We have with us tonight a special guest, Beatles vinyl expert Brian Needle from the YouTube channel Brian Needle Meets Vinyl. What's up, Brian Needle?
Hello, hello, hello.
We're going to talk about Revolver, right, man? And we have some, like, cool facts and stories and emotions all about it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to, we have some Beatles fashions, and we're going to do fab or drab. And then, all right, cool, man. So, hey, real quick, before we go to Chuckleballs, today in Beatle history was John and Yoko's first bed in for peace in Amsterdam, Tuesday, 25th of March, 1969.
All right.
This is also the date of the Beatles Butcher photo session.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's a big one, 1966, and I learned that from BeatlesBible.com. All right, let's go to Chuckleballs, you guys. What's up, Ma? Captain Love Handles is in the house. Ballers, let's go to Chuckleballs. What's up, ballers? That's Super Ball. Who's the bouncer? Super Ball, they're with me. Let them in now. Get it? Super Ball? Because he's a bouncer? All right, man. Let's see. Let me make sure that the chat box is always a delay, but I'm watching on my phone, ballers. All right, let's do our dad joke set. Welcome in, everyone who's watching. We have 7 viewers. Isn't that exciting? All right. Did you ever see, Brian Needle, how John and Yoko decorated their mansion?
No, I didn't.
It was all white. It was all white. Get it?
I get that. That's great.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic.
Thank you. That is good. I wrote that last night. If you think prices on Beatles records are expensive, you should see chimneys. They're through the roof. It's Brian Needle. All right, that was bad. I'm gonna put that as a no laugh. All right. Let's see here. You guys have heard of the comedian Bill Burr. Did you know, Captain Love Handles, that his brother is a lumberjack named Tim? Tim Burr. Captain Love Handles. That's a laugh. Mark Rojas. I bought my wife a fridge as an anniversary present. I can't wait to see her face light up when she opens it. Get it? Like the present, but also the door of the fridge because it has a light inside. All right, I'm going to put that as a laugh. We got 10 viewers, which is immensely exciting. What's up? Welcome in, everyone. We see your chats. We both see your chats even if they're not on screen, so we appreciate you saying what's up. All right, I have a good note joke here. Mark Rojas is showing up. Yes, sweet. Georgia Constitution Media. This one's for you. Old MacDonald had a farm. Wait, no. Hold on. Scratch that. Hold on. Let me try again. Old MacDonald had a dolphin.
Oh boy.
All right, that's a laugh. Captain Love Handles. Two robbers were robbing a liquor store, and one of the robbers says to the other one, "Is this whiskey?" And the first robber says, "It certainly is. It really is, but it's not as whiskey as robbing a bank." It really is. All right,
I finally got it. Finally got it.
I messed it up. That's why, Brian. I messed it up, man.
It was still good. I still liked it.
I know, it's still good. All right, thank you. All right, it was a laugh, true laugh, though. Okay. I have a couple more. I have one more before we go into Beatlesville. I was abducted by aliens, and they took me to their spaceship, Brian Needle. They made me wash my hands, and they made me eat my vegetables, and then they made me clean my room. Turns out I was on the mothership. They acted like moms.
That's good.
All right, cool. Hold on. All right, let's head back to the listening. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good set. Good set.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. There they are. There's a little delay on that. All right, hold on. Let's go back to the reaction room. But first, a message from our sponsor.
When you run around like a maniac doing exercise, you need a water that's a maniac too. That's why we invented Subscribe Pure Unfiltered Tap Athlete Water. Specially formulated by a team of buff international sports scientists, Subscribe Pure Unfiltered Tap Athlete Water has the particles, minerals, small fragments, and even water your body needs to kick athletic ass. It makes you run faster than new sneakers, makes you stronger than anyone who tries to punch you, and sexier than the guy currently dating the girl you love. Subscribe Pure Unfiltered Tap Athlete Water. Subscribe to refreshment.
All right. That was a lot. I haven't watched that in quite some time.
That was great.
That's an old one. That was an oldie but goodie. All right. So, Revolver, man. The Beatles, this was the one you chose. You were the first person I booked to talk about Beatles records, and this is the one you chose. Why?
Well, it's the first Beatle album that I ever owned by myself. That wasn't like from my dad's collection. So it's the first album that I ever like really had like a one-on-one experience with, and I've just always loved it. It's not my favorite Beatle album because I don't have a favorite Beatle album because that's impossible. But I love Revolver. That's why.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like just a couple of quick facts of you, and I'm sure you know this stuff, but just for the sake of everybody else, including me, some of the names that were suggested for the record: Abracadabra, Pendulums, Fat Man and Bobby, which I assume is a reference to Dr. Robert Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb, Magic Circle, Four Sides of the Circle, Four Sides of the Eternal Triangle, and Beatles on Safari. You probably knew that, right? Beatles on Safari was one of the suggested names. You froze for a second, and then
Yeah, I'm back now though.
and then Ringo suggested they call it After Geography as a kind of riff on Aftermath by by the Stones.
Yeah.
They were a little bit like they thought the Stones were ripping them off a little bit, you know. Which I think is one of the songs this is about that, actually. Couple of quick things. The Beatles' contract with EMI just expired during the making of the record, so they weren't even under contract. So they were doing it for free somewhat. Did it in Abbey Road, blah, blah, blah. Only 2 songs are longer than 3 minutes. Love You Too and I'm Only Sleeping. Which is crazy because I would think that, Tomorrow Never Knows, if you asked me, I would have said it was 4 minutes long or 5, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that actually. Yeah.
Time is warped when you listen. It does not seem like it's 2.5 minutes long.
Yeah. Huh.
A lot. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is weird, yeah.
And then the band. Fun fact before we go into the album cover, which I'm going to let you talk about for a minute because I know you know a lot about it.
Okay.
But the band spent longer on Yellow Submarine than they did on their entire first record.
Yeah. I
Georgia Constitution Media Man, I'll do a commercial for your YouTube channel. I'll be like Freedoms, Georgia Constitution Media style. So anyway, the record, the album cover. How much did who did it?
So the cover was made by their old friend from Germany. When they played in Hamburg, they met a guy named Klaus Bormann, and
Yes.
he became very good friends with all the Beatles. And yeah, I believe John Lennon was the one who asked Klaus to make an album cover, and they actually had a different album cover that was done originally by I think Robert Whitaker, who was the photographer who took a lot of their
Oh
early.
yeah.
He did like Rubber Soul and
Right. Yeah, Rubber Soul guy.
with the Beatles, and yeah, so he originally made like a collage. It was like a round collage of just all the Beatles heads, but they ended up not liking it. So John asked Klaus Bormann to then create something, and he came up with that line drawing that's become very famous. I hope I'm not freezing too much. If I am, I can go.
No, your vocal is fine. Your picture
Oh, okay.
froze. Here's the picture, okay?
Yeah,
And now Vorman was, he was the bass player for Manfred Mann. He played on some of the Beatles solo stuff. He played on All Things Must Pass,
yeah,
that record. And so this is the art he made, and he was paid the standard rate for album covers, which was like £40 or something, right?
yeah. I think that's right.
Like
Yeah.
they didn't have any, they didn't have control over that. But interesting how he cut out the eyes from
Yeah.
magazines. You could see it a lot more in this, and then of course the final album cover
Yeah.
is like that. So sweet, man. All right, cool.
Do you know who owns the original line drawing now?
No, who does?
Joe Walsh from the Eagles.
Wow.
And he's who also happens to be Ringo's brother-in-law.
Wow.
And Joe Walsh, he actually found it in a thrift store. This is a crazy story. In the 1970s, he was in a thrift store, and there it was, and he bought it for, I don't know, I think it's like $10 or something like that. And
oh my gosh, why does that never happen to me, Brian?
I
I never find original artwork for Beatles album covers. Oh, Mac is saying hello to you, Brian. What's up, Mac? Mac McIntyre's in the house.
hello, Mac.
Riley Net. What's up, Riley Net? Thank you for thinking it's funny. I appreciate that, Riley Net. Let's see if we have anybody else who came in. No, but hey, dude, say hi, man. We'll say hello back. But that is amazing. What a story.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
What was cool, I found when I was researching, I mean, I knew that he was still alive, but, you can go to his website and there's a lot of prints and stuff that reference this work. And one of the
Yeah.
coolest ones is like a comic strip he did about John calling him and saying, will you do the album cover? And you can buy a print of it signed by Klaus for like, less than €100. So I highly recommend if you collect this sort of thing, you could, it's pretty, that's almost like the cost of a record. You could have a piece signed by Klaus Vormann, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a good deal to me.
Exactly. So you and I should get on board with that.
Okay.
All right. So I'll put a link to that in the description, actually, so in case people want to go do that. All right, let's talk about the record, man. Let's
Okay.
talk about the songs. Okay.
Sounds good.
We'll just go through them one at a time. I have some facts about them, but you can fill me in, and then I have some quotes that I thought were notable, but I don't have to read everything. The inspiration for Taxman, the first song on side one, was George Harrison's song. Harrison discovered how much the Beatles' earnings were going straight to the treasury, of course,
Mm-hmm.
And he said, in those days we paid 19 shillings and sixpence out of every pound. And with super tax and surtax and tax, it was ridiculous. It was a heavy penalty to pay. Anybody who had made any money moved to America or somewhere else, which was interesting. I never really thought about taxes being a main reason why a lot of like British rock stars moved to the States, but I guess it is.
Oh yeah, big time. A lot of the tax exiles. I mean, that's huge. It's a huge deal. They all got so heavily taxed, and bad news.
What's up? Paper Bag Man is in the house. This is his favorite Beatles album. Paper Bag Man, I found out today when I was researching this that, and this is a recurring theme, which is that George Harrison was done dirty left and right. And he's. So George was begrudgingly, according to Beatles Bible, which is. George was begrudgingly helped by John. It was John's suggestion to use the names of both the Prime Ministers, Harold Wilson, and opposition leader Edward Heath. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Heath. They were the first living people to be mentioned in a Beatles song. But John says, I remember the day he called to ask for help on Taxman, one of his first songs. I threw in a few one-liners to help the song along, because that's what he asked for. He came to me because he couldn't go to Paul, because Paul wouldn't have helped him at that period. Can you believe that? Paul wouldn't have helped him write Taxman?
Yeah, I actually don't believe that, but
John trolls people, and when he talked to David Sheff for his All We Are Saying book, he said some incendiary stuff.
Yeah, he there's a couple of interviews from John that are like the Rolling Stone interview that he did in 1970, which was right after the Beatles had just broken up, and he was really angry, and he was going through Primal Scream, so he was going through all these emotional moments in his life. And I find so many Beatle people that like use that as like that is his last written word, and that's exactly how everything was. And so they base so many facts off of just that interview, and that's just.
He talked trash, but listen, I have to say hi to the chat because Kenneth
I take a lot of what he says with a grain of salt.
Kenneth says Charlotte says hi to Mr. Tennis Ball. Hi, Charlotte. Charlotte's watching. What's up?
Charlotte happens to be my niece, by the way, and she's
Charlotte.
A very
rock.
very cool.
Look, I'm gonna give you 2 woos. I'm gonna give you 1 more woo and an affirmative ding. There. All right, Charlotte. All right, yeah, he does, and so, but it just I thought that was interesting that that they put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul did do the guitar solo on Taxman.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
he started doing a lot more solos and stuff on guitar solos. It seemed like, and he did that Indian sounding descending thing at the end was Paul. And that's a nod to Joe. I mean, that sounds like a friend who knows what his friend is into, playing that on his song. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
All right, Eleanor
fact,
Rigby.
Go ahead.
No, talk. Please go.
I was going to say that on my website, I actually made a whole video talking about the misunderstood relationship between Paul McCartney and George Harrison. Because
oh, cool. I'm gonna
I that's a topic that's pretty interesting to me because it's I think a lot of people don't understand how close all the Beatles were, but especially Paul and George, they were very, very close.
Dude, they were like brothers, man.
Yeah, and actually, if you go back as far as knowing each other the longest, Paul and George met when they were very, very young, even before John. So anyway, just a little.
And he was the youngest, you know. But yeah, that's actually one of the few videos on your channel I haven't watched. Okay. But yeah, look in the comments. The Brian Needle Meets Vinyl channel is really good. It's all about Beatles records. So Eleanor Rigby, you know, was on a double A side with Yellow Submarine, and it's really one of the Beatles' timeless compositions. And amazingly, you know, the Beatles just sang on it. You know, it's just George Martin's arrangements and his studio classical team that would come in and play, which I would love to do.
Eleanor Braun,
yeah, Eleanor Braun, and then also Rigby's like alcohol distributors or whatever. Are you frozen again, man, or are you alive? You're here with me.
I think I'm back now. Yeah.
Did you hear the grave? Did you hear what I was saying about the graves?
I didn't hear it, but I think I know what you're talking about. How they?
Yeah, like there actually is an Eleanor Rigby grave and a Father Mackenzie grave, and he didn't remember that, but it's kind of too much to believe that was a total coincidence.
Yeah, that's like the subconscious working, is what I think when that happens. You know.
We're cool, Georgia Constitution Media. It doesn't suck that bad. All right, cool. All right, do you have any interesting facts about Eleanor Rigby you want to share? Do you like this song?
I love Eleanor Rigby. I think it's I think he's probably one of Paul's masterpieces, really. And yeah, I don't know if I have anything really to add to it, other than I know there was like a story where he Marion Faithfull, the singer from like the mid 60s, she was dating Mick Jagger, and she was asking
Yeah.
Paul if he had any songs that he could give to her. And he said that I guess he was playing Eleanor Rigby, and she thought he was going to give her Eleanor Rigby to sing, but then he ended up giving her
Right.
a different song. I don't know what song it was he ended up giving her, but
He was like, "That's too good for you, Marianne. Sorry."
yeah, he basically said like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to record that one," and then he gave her like a different song. I don't remember what song he gave her, but um, she did end up recording a cover of Yesterday. I know that, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
exact other song she did. But
Well, that's actually a whole other thing, which is Georgia Constitution. You're right. Everyone hit the like button. It does help me a lot if you subscribe and click the bell too and stuff. But I feel like that's a whole other subject too, which is that Beatles songs was so huge that there was like a cottage industry in everybody covering them. So there would be like million Yellow Submarine singles in the store when you went to pick it up, and
yeah,
people didn't care.
true.
People just wanted the song. All right, cool. I just thought that whole thing about the grave was interesting. Have you been to England and done like a Beatles tour and visited the grave of Eleanor Rigby?
No, I haven't, but my wife and I really, really want to go to
Yes.
Europe and to check out all the Beatles sites and do that. My wife is
Yes.
just as much of a Beatle fan as I am, so that's like a dream trip. We will do it someday.
Yeah, me too. I went and I walked across the crosswalk at Abbey Road.
Oh,
But
that's
it
great.
was it was a guided tour, so I had to sneak away to do that. But I want to go and just do Beatles things. I want to just do all the Beatles things. All right.
Uh,
Interestingly, Ringo wrote the line, "Father Mackenzie donning his socks in the night when there's nobody there." That was a Ringo line,
that's right.
which is
That's right. Yeah,
cool. And "All the Lonely People, Where Do They All Belong" is from George Harrison. He wrote that part,
that's what I heard.
which
Yeah.
is which is interesting because that is so emotive. What's up? KR is in his house. Oh, the stream is freezing. Oh no, I'm sorry, guys. We're just gonna keep trying to go though. I'm Only Sleeping was omitted from the U.S. release, but I think it's one of the greatest songs on here. It's really encapsulates who John was at this time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fantastic song.
And I mean, he really was just like smoking weed and hanging out at Tottenham or whatever, and sleeping all day and playing music. And the reporters were like, "You're lazy." You won the Beatles game show trivia contest when you were a kid, Brian? Is that
That
true?
that is true. I don't know
Did
who
what?
I don't know who's writing that.
Let's see. That was Moto Doug. Moto Doug is in the house. He wrote
Yes,
that.
that's a that's a true statement. I don't usually go bragging about that, but that is something that is true.
What did you get? Did you get a good prize?
Yeah, what did I get? I think I got like two Beatle bootleg CDs, and then I got something else. It was at a Beatle Fest when I was
Cool.
like, I think I was 12 or 13 or something like that. But yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, it was fun. People were kind of surprised to see some little kid knowing about
That's
the
awesome.
Beatles.
I love that. I love that. What's up? Maybe it's what's up? Maybe it's Nito. What's up, Tim? Tim, say hi. Big hello from Connecticut. They love Uncle Brian and Dennis Ball. Well, make sure you click subscribe, Tim. Say hi, and then log in from your other YouTube account and click subscribe again. All right, hold on a second. I'm being silly now. Love you. So the let's see, blah blah blah. It has a "I'm Only Sleeping" has a backwards guitar part, which was actually two parts conceived and performed by George Harrison during a five, once clean and once with fuzz. I always find that really interesting, man, because I love to know who's played a solo, and sometimes I'm really surprised at who did it, like that it was a Paul solo,
Yeah,
that it was he. That was cool that he stayed there late and recorded the solo on John's song. That's kind of a neat. I don't know. It's fun.
yeah.
Think of that.
From what I've read and what I've heard is that George always would he would take a long, long time recording guitar parts. He wanted to get them exactly right, so he would work out every single note and
Yep.
every little nuance. And Yeah,
And in
he
this,
was
go
perfectionist for
ahead.
sure.
And in this case, he actually wrote the guitar part backwards. So like he
Yeah,
wrote what he wanted, and then he wrote it backwards, and then he played that, and then he reversed the tape so that it
yep,
was what he wanted, but in reverse. I mean, he didn't just
yeah.
mess around and then put it in backwards. He wrote out what he was doing, and then he did that twice. I mean, that's pretty cool.
That
Um,
uh, very very cool. I should just say if I'm responding to your questions maybe like kind of an odd way that it's like kind of breaking up for me. So I'm hearing like only certain words that you're saying, and
no,
I'm just
you're
guessing as to
fine.
what we're talking about. So if I
You're
okay
doing great. I had no idea.
okay
But let's just this is a good point to say that this record was like their entree into like like the studio experimentation that led to Sergeant Pepper's and some of their later work.
oh
Would you
totally
agree with that statement? This was where it all
yeah
started to unravel, so to speak.
yep. It's when they started using the studio as part of their work. The studio was another instrument. So they were messing with the tape, slowing the tape down, speeding it up, cutting the tape
Hmm.
up, doing all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah. So you're 100% right. This is right where they started to get very very experimental and see where they can
And
take it.
exactly, and which actually leads us perfectly into "Love You Too," which was not only musically experimental, but it sort of showcased George's burgeoning interest in like Middle Eastern philosophy and those sort of spiritual issues. And so it
Yeah.
basically both, but it also, but you know, musically as well. So I mean, that was where they really, there was their first full attempt at recording a piece of music in that classical Indian style,
Yeah.
and you know, he was learning from Ravi Shankar, obviously, and he said he wrote "Love You Too." I wrote "Love You Too" on the sitar because the sitar sounded so nice, and my interest was getting deeper all the time. I wanted to write a tune that was specifically for the sitar. It also had a tabla part, and that was the first time they used a tabla player. That's like the drums, right, Ryan?
Yeah, exactly.
That's like that drum. And so I love that song. Was that in Yellow Submarine? Was that the song that played when George appeared in Yellow Submarine?
Exactly.
I
He's
think
on
it
the
might have
mountaintop
been.
and they zoom in. Yeah.
That it's so cool. That is, I mean, that's cool. That's a cool version of George to me. What like
Agreed. Yeah.
yes, man. Yes, Nito, that's right. Holly Danger is in the house. What's up, Holly Danger? Holly Danger, we're about to start talking about Here, There, and Everywhere, which was Paul McCartney's favorite song among his own compositions. Did you know that, Brian?
I've heard that. Yeah, he always cites that as his personal favorite song that he's ever written.
And John loved it too, actually.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
you can't blame him. It's like a perfectly crafted song. It's an amazing song. And then the middle eight, the bridge part, it like changes keys. It goes to another key, and it's just a brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant song.
Do you know the story about where and how when Paul wrote that song?
I don't think I.
He went to John's house, right? You know, he's always sleeping.
Oh yeah, he wrote it in this by the swimming pool, right? Is that?
He was waiting for John to wake up, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
then
right.
John woke up and he's like, "Well, I was waiting for you. I wrote the greatest song of all time, Sleepyhead. Let's go inside and record
E- exactly. Yeah,
and they
exactly.
worked on it. That's so funny, isn't it?
I love that. Yeah,
That
it's great.
that story was from a book called Many Years from Now by a guy named Barry Miles, who
Great
wrote a
book.
book. This, yeah, I need to actually get that. There's a few books
And
that I cite
I
frequently that I need to purchase.
I think that's the single greatest book um, about the Beatles. I will go on record and say that it's the greatest book about the Beatles because it's Paul
Wow.
speaking, and it's he goes in depth about almost every Lennon McCartney song, and it's really good. And it's written from the fact that it's so good is that it's from an outsider perspective, meaning it's not one of the Beatles, but he interviewed Paul so much that it's
Right.
Paul's voice, but it's also there's like an objective narration going. So it's just really really good. I recommend it.
I mean, yeah, and the stories, like I've read from it. The excerpts I've read from it are always fascinating. I've learned so
Yeah.
much cool stuff from it. And like literally a lot of the stuff about the I won't go into it cuz we're going to go off on a tangent. But we're going to talk about Yellow Submarine now, which featured one of our favorite people, Mal Evans, on backing vocals and bass drum. And, you know, you guys don't know
Yes.
Mal was the Beatles. They said roadie, but really he was kind of their personal assistant, roadie,
Yeah, like right hand
percussionist.
man is what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, go get the, you know, he was like Mal. Paul was like, Mal, go get me an anvil. You know, and then George was like, Mal, go see if there's a shoe guy who will bring 20 pairs of black size 8s. Right? You remember that? That was all
Yes.
Mal.
That's
But in
Mal.
any case, but Yellow Submarine had Neil Aspinall, who was their childhood friend who ran Apple Records, and George Martin and Jeff Emmerich, the recording engineer, and Patty Harrison and Brian Jones from the Stones,
Yeah.
and Marianne Faithfull and Alf Bicknell, who I don't know who that is, on all on
Alf
backing vocal.
Alf was their chauffeur.
Oh, okay, cool. What's up? Yeah, Paper Bag Man, KR. You guys rock. You like the Petula Clark cover? Yeah, totally, man. There's a lot of great covers of Beatles songs. I mean, there's piles, which is just absolutely wonderful because once you're done listening to Beatles songs, you can go and listen to other people's recordings of them. So, Yellow Submarine, man, written by Paul. It was always intended to be a children's song, but it, kind of chimed with that whole psychedelic thing that was going on, the vibe, nostalgic, carefree attitudes.
Yeah.
Paul said like he was lying in bed one night and it kind of came to him in the twilight moment before sleep, like fully formed. The concept, the melody, the entire thing.
Hmm.
He said he likes children's things, children's minds and imagination. So it didn't seem uncool to me to have a pretty surreal idea that was also a children's idea. And I thought also with with Ringo being so good with kids, it would be a great fit for him. I just went off from that. But in any case, he wasn't that keen on singing it apparently. But one couplet was suggested by Donovan,
Yeah.
and Mellow Yellow was released around the same time. But Paul asked him for it. Was like, what was the couplet? Do you remember what it was?
Sky of blue, sea of green, in our Yellow Submarine.
Yeah.
Donovan wrote
Yeah,
that.
great. That's such a fun thing. I mean,
Yeah. And
I wonder sometimes. 14 people in the house. Thanks, y'all. Woo! Thanks, Gorge across from New Season Media. Click like, please, if you're enjoying the stream. I wonder sometimes when I hear those things if Paul knew the scope of what was happening, and he said, "Hey, let Mal sing backup vocals on this. Hey, let Mal play the simple organ part on this song or whatever, and so that he'll get a performance credit and." Or, whatever, or just like things like that. Like, I'll let Donovan write one couplet and it will make it more interesting. Historically, even, I think he did.
that's possible. I don't know. I think
Maybe
Paul's
not.
just all the Beatles were pretty generous people, it seems like. And
Yeah.
I think they
And
all kind of
yeah.
they were all very
Creatively
of them.
generous.
Yeah, creatively generous. And they were all very of the moment, So I think they were open to other people giving ideas too. And the big thing about the Beatles is that they always went with whatever was the best idea. Didn't matter who it was from. They just went with the best
Yes.
idea, and that's part of their magic. And why we're still talking about them right now. It's 2022.
Absolutely. She said, speaking of which, the last song on the side, she said, final track recorded for the record was inspired by LSD conversation with John Lennon and Peter Fonda, right? The actor.
That's right. Yeah, they were in Los Angeles, and George and John had taken
Jeff
LSD.
Schramm, sorry. Yes, George and John had taken LSD. Go on.
Yes, and they so they were at this party, and Peter Fonda was there, and Peter Fonda had also taken it, and he kept coming up to John and he kept telling the story of when, I guess, when Peter Fonda was a little kid, he accidentally shot himself somehow,
Yeah, right,
and
right. And
he so
he
he
knew
kept
what it was like to be dead.
yeah, so he kept telling that to John, and John, of course, didn't want to hear that, and so he then wrote the song later on, and
And John replied, "You're making me feel like I've never been born, Peter."
yeah,
And
it's
that was the lyric, that straight out of that
exactly
conversation. And it's important to remember when hearing the story that Peter Fonda had not yet made Easy Rider, so he
true.
was not like this well known. He might have done The Trip, his movie about LSD,
Mm.
um, but in any case, yeah, good story. All right, hold on. Do I have anything more about this song?
I could I could
Which is
I could say one
go
thing
on.
that I think is
Yeah.
it's one of the only Beatles songs that doesn't feature Paul McCartney on it at all. In fact,
Oh
in
yes.
fact, George is playing bass, and what Paul says in that book many years from now is that they had an argument, and Paul just stormed out. He just left, and the three of them, John, George, and Ringo, all finished the song. So it's kind of a interesting side note.
And it's also interesting because that's a freaking sick bass line. It's
Yeah,
got like these
totally.
fifths in it. It's like it's going boom, boom, boom. It's like popping all over the place, man. It's like
It,
Bootsy Collins.
it absolutely yes, and another just a personal side note. This for like a hot second, this was my favorite Beatles song. I just was obsessed with it. I listened to it over and over and over again.
Yes, and I'll say that it's one of my favorite Beatles songs. And the thing that I absolutely love about it is how John sings. I know what it's like to be and then George plays. He plays the same melody as the vocal, but
Yeah.
slightly changed. Like
Yep.
he'll adjust it a little bit, and it's like it's every time he does it, it kills me.
Well, that's that Ravi Shankar Middle Eastern musical influence for sure. That like to copy a line like that.
Right, to
That's
mirror the vocal line with the lead.
yeah. It's just
Interesting.
and just the sound of the guitars on that song. The guitars are unbelievably great. And Ringo's drumming, by the way, I think this is the best drumming, in my opinion. This is the best drumming he ever did. Was on She Said, She Said. Everyone talks about how Rain, the song
She
Rain, was his best.
said.
But the drums, if you listen to the drums on She Said, they're unbelievable. They do
I'm gonna
insane
go
stuff.
back and listen to them. I'm gonna go back and listen to them. He's Ringo. I'm gonna do a whole episode about Ringo. I actually emailed that drummer that you told me to talk to,
Very
because
cool.
Ringo doesn't play drum beats. He plays the song. That's
Yes.
my opinion. He plays the song, and I don't know how he knows exactly what to play, but he does. you know,
It's just it
it's
comes naturally to him,
it's
and
beyond
yeah,
like a drum beat. It's not just a drum beat. It's like the integral part of I don't know, but we'll talk about that later.
sounds
Let's
good.
flip over the record and go to side 2.
Okay.
Good Day Let's try and move up. We'll move a little bit quicker on this part.
Okay.
Good Day Sunshine was recorded in 2 days over June 1966. It was called The Good Days Sunshine initially, but interestingly, George Martin again playing piano solo. George Martin, the sixth Beatle, or
There you go.
fifth,
Yeah.
because he really, I mean, he played on so many of these songs, and he added on this record particularly his arrangements, the string stuff he brought a feeling to this record that like all the songs that have strings in them, Eleanor Rigby on down, are changed, or brass are changed immeasurably by
Yep.
George Martin's contributions. What do you say about that?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's George Martin cannot be he gets all the praise from me. I think he's an absolute genius, and he deserves to be talked about right along with all
With the other Beatles.
individual Beatles as
As a
yeah.
Beatle, yeah, you froze for a second, but yes, and furthermore, he was running things. He was like the uncle who was making it happen. And Your Bird
Yeah.
Can Sing, written by John, cryptic lyrics, twin guitar riffs played by Paul and George.
Yeah.
that like that, right? They were playing those together.
That's exactly it.
Great.
That was note for note perfect.
That well, not exactly, but pretty close. Not bad for a ball. All right, hold on. John never revealed the inspiration, but it's believed to be referred to the rivalry between the Stones and the Beatles. Have you ever heard that before?
I've heard that theory before. Yeah, I've heard that theory. I don't know if I quite believe that, but
And the
anyway.
bird is Marianne. What's up, Jeff Schramm? And the bird is Marianne Faithfull, and your bird can sing. I don't know if I buy that. You've seen Seven Wonders. I don't know what that. But of course, he was trying to be like Bob Dylan, so he would literally make stuff up that made no sense.
True. Yeah, he was just trying to put nice words together that sounded good at that point. I mean, that's what I think.
Exactly. In fact, there was a clip that I watched, which was this hippie that camped on John Lennon's lawn, and he went out and talked to him. Did you guys ever see that? Maybe it's Nito says Matthew Sweet and Susanna Hoff did a good cover of "And Your Bird Can Sing." Fun song. We'll check that out.
That is a great cover, by the way. That Matthew Sweet, Susanna Hoff's cover is fantastic. Yes.
Well, I'll check it out. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, he came out, right, and he was like talking to this guy on the lawn, and he was basically like, dude, I literally was just making junk up. Some of it meant something, maybe. Some of it meant nothing.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, but what about when you said, words are flowing over and this blah, 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 paper cup. And the guy, he was like, I was just making that up. It didn't mean anything. And I was like, I was a little bit like, but John. But it's true, man. All right, hold on. Let's cruise to the next song. For No One. The Day Breaks, Your Mind Aches, and it was originally called Why Did It Die? Paul sang this understated melody to him, and George Martin wrote it down, and Alan Civil performed it. I don't know who Alan Civil is. He was probably one of the classical...
Yeah, he's from the London Symphony Orchestra. He was just one of the top session guys around at that time.
Oh yeah, he was a cellist or something. Because interesting. Okay, here's the interesting fact.
French horn.
George Martin, French horn. Okay, that George Martin and Paul McCartney inserted a top note into the score outside of the instrument's normal range.
Yeah.
And Alan looked up from his piece of paper and said, "What?" Like George Martin, Paul McCartney said, we came to the session, and Alan looked up from his bit of paper and said, "Hey, George, I think there's a mistake here. We've got a high F written down here." And then George and Martin and I said, "Yeah," and smiled back at him, and he knew what we were up to, and he played it. These great players will do it, even though it's officially off the end of their instrument. They can do it, and they're quite into it occasionally. It's a nice little solo. That's cool that that's actually like, that shows that George Martin knew the players. Giving them something to sink their teeth into, to do something interesting outside of the normal range of the instruments. Do they do that in a lot of the songs, you think, with those arrangements? Those classical arrangements?
I think
you know a cellist. Ask him and tell me next time we talk.
Okay.
All right. And then so the next
I think
one
I know what you're talking about. Sorry, you're breaking up. So
no, I was talking about how George Martin would write the pieces for the classical players that were outside the range of their instrument. And I was saying, do you think he did that on other songs as well? And I think he really did, because they really stretched the boundaries of what those things would, just with stuff like the noise and the, I want you guys to, like.
I agree. I think you're right. I think you're very right.
A lot of it was within the bounds, of course, because he likes things to sound nice. But Dr. Robert was a song by John Lennon. It was mainly about drugs and pills, he said, and it was about himself, because he was like the guy who had the drugs when they were first starting out in his pockets, the pills. And then later on, the roadies had them, I'm assuming Mal and other guys. And then... but it was the first song that had like explicit references to drugs, though at the time of release they were largely unnoticed, which is hard to believe now.
True. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
It was Dr.
Prescribed.
Freeman, and he
Yeah.
also gave people he gave people B12 injections which had amphetamines in them.
Yeah.
Apparently, Dr. Freeman. So yeah, so it was a whole
he
thing.
was like they called him like the doctor to the stars. I think he like
Dr. Feelgood kind of guy.
Yeah, he prescribed. I think Jacqueline Kennedy was one of his many clients.
Shout out to the Kennedy family.
Shout out to the Kennedy.
All right. I want to tell you, we're cruising through to the end here. I want to tell you was a George song. It was his third song on Revolver, and it's about like an avalanche of thoughts that are hard to write down. But there was this is a really kind of a sad comment that Jeff Emmerich, one of the recording engineers, said, which was one really got the impression that George was given a certain amount of time to do his tracks, whereas the other people could spend as much time as they wanted to. You felt under pressure when you were in a George song. Isn't that a bummer? Like, they were not, like, George was not given, he was rushed. Like, Paul and John could do whatever they wanted to, but George was kind of like under pressure to like get his song done quick and move on. I don't know. The fact that Jeff Emmerich mentioned that made me think he wasn't just making it up. You know, he was there working on all these songs. I don't know, man. I like to think that they're like brothers and stuff, but of course we don't always treat our family members as well as we should. But I you know, it made me feel. I just always feel sorry for George, and I hate Eric Clapton because of what he did. All right, okay, let's move. All right, let's move on. Gotta Get You Into My Life was, again, George Martin is playing organ on this song. Motown, it was supposed to be like a Motown song by George, by Paul McCartney, Got to Get You Into My Life. He was trying to, but get this, he wrote it about pot. Got to Get You Into My Life. He was writing it about not a love song, but it's about he really liked pot and he wanted it to be like a part of his life. Isn't that crazy? Really? That's what Paul said in Barry Miles' book many years from now. Paul said, did you catch what I said? Did you hear me?
Dennis, I don't think I've been able to hear you for the last like 2 minutes, unfortunately.
Can you hear? Can you hear me now?
I can kind of hear you. I wonder if I should try to should I try to reconnect in like
folks, stick with us, man. We're still here. He's coming right back. I can't believe this is going on, but we had a little bit of a weird house. All right, here he's gonna come right back in, and maybe that'll help. Can you guys hear me now? Oh man, did it end?